Now, hands up out there who are pollsters watching. Yep, I didn't think you'd want to admit it, because 2016 is a year they all want to forget, because whether it's Trump propelled to the White House or the Brexit vote here in the UK, the art of predicting politics has been well and truly trashed. My next guest, though, boasts that he called both correctly. His name is Kutarna, and he's the co-author of The Age of Discovery. Welcome here to the programme. So,
thank you, Michael.
why were you able to call it the way you did when so many were calling it the opposite way?
Yeah, it's, I guess, now my infamous reputation. It wasn't that I had better data. I think that it's all about having imagination. The book that I co-authored with Ian Golden, Age of Discovery, was all about this urgent idea that, you know, our range of expectations on the present moment is far too narrow right now, and reality keeps falling outside of that range. And so we need to find a way to stretch our expectations, our imagination, about what is possible in this moment of upheaval that we live in.
And you make historical parallels, don't you? Explain a little more, because that does help to explain quite a lot of what we see.
So my argument, first of all, is that history has always been this resource that's available to us when we need a broader perspective on the present. And in the book, we look to the historical Renaissance. And the broad parallels are actually right in front of our eyes. Sort of new maps that change our conception of the world, globalization, new media that radically flips the economics of information exchange, like Gutenberg's press, or digitization. And if you look at the kind of flourishing of genius...
So Brexit, Trump, what was the parallel for that?
So for Trump, it's actually a bit scary how close the parallel is. In the 1500s, or the late 15th century, a firebrand political outsider named Savonarola, who maybe history best remembers now for the Bonfire of the Vanities, but he waltzes into Florence, which is the liberal, wealthy heart of Renaissance Europe, ousts the Medici and installs himself as the de facto king. With this campaign that said, you have all of these anxieties about what is happening in the world today, and it is the fault of these elites, of this establishment that is more consumed with enriching itself than helping us all keep up.
And there are the obvious echoes of what we've just seen. In terms of going forward, are you able, from any of this way of looking at politics, to make any sort of projections?
Well, I mean, I guess the first thing I should say is I've always resisted the idea that I was making predictions. What I was trying to do is give a warning that we are thinking too narrowly. And so in the run-up to Brexit, I was saying, let's, whatever we do, not wake up the morning after this referendum and be shocked by the result. Rather, it's the result that we worked hard to achieve because we knew that it was all possible. And similarly with the US election, let's not wake up the next morning and be shocked by the result. So, I mean, if we look at upcoming popular votes and elections in Europe, I think that there is a real anxiety, and it's a valid anxiety, about Marine Le Pen in France.
Yep, and we were talking about that on the programme only a couple of days ago, about those sorts of themes, almost a domino effect that is taking place with populist movements and politicians. Do you think politics has been changed permanently? There's no way back to the old order. Do you think going forward we've seen a fundamental shift in the way politics is done?
Well, I think that would be a very dangerous prediction if we're looking at the lessons from history. I think what there has been is, I hope, a real awakening to the stakes of the present moment. But, I mean, the whole other message of the Renaissance is positive. I think that what is being lost is sort of staring right in our faces are these populist shocks, is that in a big picture, this is also the best moment in history to be alive. And so this is a comment that President Obama has been making, is that we need to recognize that actually things like trade, that technology, it works to create wealth. The challenge is, how do we translate wealth into well-being? How do we distribute the gains so that we are all individually lifted? How do we forge new ties of belonging as we go through these social upheavals? So I actually think it's not that politics has changed, is that has it ever been a moment where politics has been more urgent to lean in and be involved?
Well, Kutarna, it's fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for coming in and explaining all of that.